Good morning from New York. How are you today? Thank you for tuning in. Today's subject is inner mind communication, sources of disease. And where does inner mind communication fit in? Um, hmm, Good question. Well, it's kind of like exercise. It's something you do yourself, and it can be very helpful and sometimes helpful in ways that other things can't be. Just as exercise, you might need someone who's a physical therapist to move your joints for you or something if you're in bad shape. But there are things that you need to do yourself, and this rather fits into that, to some degree anyway. Um, oh boy. So, what are some of the sources of disease that we deal with? Wow. Of course, it's this atmospheric, it's just the air we breathe, and the purity of our water, and, climate conditions. Wow. So, that can be a kind of source of ill ease, anyway, and threat to us, and in some cases, disease. Um, but then there's genetics. Okay, now these things are things that inner mind communication cannot help you with, particularly well, except maybe philosophically. You know, how to how to have a healthier life, and yeah, being in touch with yourself does help in many ways. But no, it's not going to change that. Then you have epigenetics. That can be a problem. That's how the genes are expressed, and the grandfather rat can, in experiments, show elements of its deprivation and trauma being manifested in its grandchildren. So, whoa. So that you're reminded of the biblical thing of the sins of the fathers visited upon. Well, it really does. It really. I don't believe it or not. It's that bad. Yeah, here in Realityville. Um, and then there's, you know, the effects of stress on, on a woman while she's carrying a child, and um, that can affect the child, and of course, it can affect the woman too. Um, there's hormonal structuring of the brain, which can result in some interesting conditions. Um, that make can be uncomfortable uh, to some anyway. And then you've got CPTSD, which is has to do with more along the lines of deprivation, deprivation trauma, and something that occurs well, and that's in two parts. There's there's the development of the that can be harmed before you ever have language. That steps over into that category. Then there's, yeah, I know, the myelination of the cells. It's a different kind of memory. Okay. All right. Then after that, you've got, you got the verbal, childhood. And then you've got the development of the brain, which takes until you're 25. It's still developing. So during that period of time, after you're a grown-up child, an adult child, college kid, then you're looking at things that can go wrong there. And the list goes on. It's a miserable day in the neighborhood. A miserable day to be a neighbor. Won't you be mine? It's a difficult world. Summing it up, it's a difficult world. And I'm trying to tell you that inter-mind communication isn't the answer for everything. All right? But it is very helpful. And there are three things that we can do for ourselves, that are very helpful for our health. And that's, well, hopefully can do for ourselves. Adverse conditions can alter this choice, but better nutrition. Yeah. You need good nutrition, enough water, clean water, things like that. Your nutrition, and that you can help yourself a little bit, right? And also there's exercise. Exercise is good for you, and really only you sometimes can know, if you listen to your body, exactly when you're going too far one way or another with diet and exercise. Something feels off, go see the doctor, get something figured out there. Then there's the area of inter-mind communication, and that's good for your health. The entire practice that I talk about is the mystic path. It's has to do with your spiritual health, but spiritual health overlaps. You're dealing with damaged faith and love, and trying to undo, that damage, and also to grow in virtue. And inter-mind communication does both of those things. Some might call it pastoral care, if you're religious, it's in that category. Doesn't mean you don't need some extra help along the way. Other people, it can be helpful. I mean, if you got an exercise pal, that helps you to do the thing in the first place. It's like, if you're in a group, You feel embarrassed if you didn't do you didn't do the exercise, I suppose. So that can be helpful. So with inner mind communication, a community can be somewhat helpful if they understand these things. At the core, in terms of the health benefits of inner mind communication, is the unlearning of helplessness around the focus on the flexibility with the playfulness and the straightforward the expression of need, which this kind of helplessness is at the core of trauma, because when you actually cannot do those things, it triggers an anxiety which is really bad for your health. And so inner mind communication can do that. And inner mind communication doesn't probe into, seek out trauma in you. It allows it to come to the surface naturally in the course of a process that breaks down the symbolic or unreal kinds of things that our brain gave us in place of the need that was blocked. We're helpless to get certain needs met. That could be a need to get away, the need to fight back, or any other need, any broadly speaking, any need. Helplessness around need, its expression, its the focus on it in the first place, the feeling of it, and the ability to be a play with it, to look at it from different perspectives and to see it for what it is. So the methods involved with inner mind communication are perspectives used in a comforting way, which broadens your comfort zone into greater capacity for compassion, objectivity, and creativity. And, of course, focus, play, and expression, all related to human need. So that's basically two different areas, and the focus, play, and expression are what you can do, even what you were able to do, and only perhaps able to do before you had language. And then language comes in, society develops these abilities into objectivity, creativity, and compassion, which are evolutes, so just make up a word, things that evolve from those basic abilities of play and focus and expression in relationship to need. And these are forms of empathy in society. These are forms of empathy because they involve communication between oneself and others, and In inner mind communication, you're practicing those forms of empathy and those forms of awareness um, that the pre-verbal capacities that underlie um, these social skills. So the forms of empathy are creative, empathetic, creative empathy, compassionate empathy, and objective empathy. And from these you get your virtues. The more you use these things, the greater your comfort zone expands, so that you're more comfortable with being more objective, more compassionate, and more creative. You develop the skills, and you develop your comfort zone, and in other words, your capacity for these things. And they're at the root of your virtues: goodness from compassion, truth from objectivity, and artfulness, the ability to see things in a lot of different perspectives, and to, in other words, create play. So these things together are very effective. If you do all of these all of the six practices in inner mind communication, it can be very powerful. But you also have to consider what you're comfortable with, just like with exercise. So you do as much or of the kinds of things that you feel comfortable with, and you work on the others gradually. And what this does, of course, if there really is something traumatic or something that comes up, it helps you to process that, which is that trauma, that helplessness, is the damaged faith and love. That's the spiritual perspective and approach. And that means let's explain evil for a minute. The great mystic Jesus said that evil, you defined evil in this way: as the love of money or mammon. What is that? Money is symbolic need. You can't fill up on symbols. It's no satiation point met, like it is when you're eating food. Hopefully you have a satiation point. And so you end up with something as a reaction to that helplessness. You have this urge toward power, and an urge toward more and more of the symbolized need that was blocked. And when the right conditions occur, when you let's say, when you do these practices, it challenges your comfort zone, just like exercise does. And but you do it in a comforting kind of way. You're trying to comfort yourself. You're not trying to find some deep, dark thing. And the process, thus, needs to be explained here. The linear perspective, which is not as linear as it sounds in some cases, but pretty much. So when you actually are able to express and focus on and or feel, express, and be it play with those original needs, well, you know what they are. Well, how do you know what they are? Well, you know what they are because the symbolic defenses are slowly chipped away as you attempt to be to open up to these 6 skills that you have. And so it chips away at that symbolic defense system, which is the source of damage, faith, and love, which isn't the source, it's the result of damage, faith, and love, and then the source of evil. And I could go more and more into that subject, but I'm trying to learn to package things, in ways that you can relate to, okay? As someone who might not know about some of these things. And for those who know parts of this, well, let's see how the parts that you understand match up with what I'm talking about. But once you realize what the needs were, you realize also that now that in the current time there are losses, and so you need to grieve those losses and let them go. And only then, or to the degree you've done that, you're able to forgive. And from forgiveness, you finally move to repentance. And real remorse, and the realization you're no longer the person who did those bad things because you were hurting. You're no longer that person. You're no longer, as Jesus referred to it, as sick. No, the sick have need of a physician. That's what he said when he was hanging out with the people that the self-righteous considered to be so sinful. So there's that process, and what you see a lot in society is a punishing attitude, which Jesus plainly talked against. Any of the great mystics, Buddha, Krishna, whatever, Muhammad, be peace be upon him, their core message was about love. So they got that point. And love is what joins you to your sense of a higher self, your sense of what some call God, or the absolute reality. Well, whether you can fully do that or not is a matter of question, a good question, and a matter of opinion. but that's the goal of the mystic, of course, is to join more to an ultimate reality, which is as personified is often called God. Um, and God, of course, is going to be fully capable in all of these skills, and because these skills are skills to meet human need, and meeting human need is love, the source of love. Yeah. So, let's see. So this is where it fits in. It's part of a trinity of healthy activities that you can do to help yourself. In many ways, there are things that you can do to help yourself that others can't, and in some cases shouldn't. And this idea that you should trust, and trust is a product of the integration of all of these skills into your life. You know, it's a trust in love, which is opposite to damaged faith and love. It's a growing in faith. It's a spiritual journey. Yeah, and decent pastoral care should, be dealing with this. And these, you can't. There's some things you just have to do yourself, and you know what you feel. Somebody outside you can guess, but you know what you feel. And your brain is the one that created symbols to hide or mask that overly anxiety-provoking, helpless situation that trauma brought. So at some point, it's a lonely journey. It's something you have to do on your own. And people meddling in that, if they're not helping, they're meddling. And you don't want people meddling in your life. You don't, and there are many things that you might need to heal from, in terms of need to repent. That isn't safe to be telling, anybody, perhaps, you'd have to have a lot of trust in that person. And, for people that are really hurting and damaged and bad history, you don't want to share some things that you might have done. And those who in that situation shouldn't be kicked out of the spiritual process. That's ridiculous. And asking them to trust another human being with everything that they might have thought or done that was bad is not wise, not in a world society that tries to do the opposite of the process that I talked about. Change right now, or else I'm going to beat you over the head, put you in a jail, do, this and that. Yeah, that's for the protection of society. You might have to jail somebody, But look, you don't have to be cruel about it. And being cruel about it is not the way of the mystic. It's not the way of Jesus or Buddha or Krishna or Muhammad, peace be upon him. None of them. Buddha, whatever. You know, it's so you want to be religious. I would say that religion is a problem. It's definitely man-made. And the spiritual path is getting in touch with the reality of the spirit. And that means no punishing attitude, allowing the process and taking a journey of love. There's some people who say, well, it helps, to have outside help to, well, a lot of times that outside help is, just kind of more like surgery or something, like this psychic surgery, going and trying to probe into the hurt in you instead of allowing a natural process to occur and augmenting that. That's the best way to go if you can. If you have to have a interference beyond that, then well, there may be a professional out there that can help you. But otherwise, you need with this process, you need pastoral care. You need help from someone who's been there, not someone who's guessing about it. So I think that pretty much wraps up what I'm trying to say here. We do need to help ourselves when it comes to our diet and our exercise and our inner mind communication, our more common name, our introspection, our experienced introspection. These three things are good for your health. Can inner mind communication replace exercise? No. Can it replace good, decent diet? No. Can it replace cancer treatments? No. But it can make you generally healthier, and it's something that is your responsibility to do in your own life as much as you can do it. If you can't do it, maybe you need a little help. But a lot of times that's just, you need a trainer, like or an educator, It tells you, these are the foods you should be eating. These things may differ, depending on the individual. But in general, that's what a fairly healthy person that wants to be healthier can do for themselves with just some education. So an education or training in that's the next level of help beyond just helping yourself. And education is to have someone actually prepare the meals for you, show you how to make the meals. I mean, you know, something like that. They're training you with exercise. You can have a trainer, you know, and that's always great if you can afford it, you know, and with inner mind communication, you can have a trainer, and that's what essentially what pastoral care should be about. Um, and remember, love brings us together, and hate and fear, they tend to cause us problems. So, you know, gentle and slow. When you know, there's a statement about driving. You know, that speed kills. Yeah. So if you can go slower, that's probably not a bad idea. And go slow. Be careful. Try to comfort yourself with these things, you know. It can feel good to take a walk. So take a walk. Next time, take a longer walk. Same thing with inner mind communication. Do what you can. Work on it. You know, do a little more next time. And stay within your comfort zone. You know, so part of that comfort zone is expanding the comfort zone. Because we're meant to grow. So let's grow spiritually. Let's focus on inner mind communication in the ways that I've been teaching in these videos, and hopefully in the future I've lost connection with and cooperation with some others who were into the practice. I kind of feel like a Pure Land Zen teacher did when he reported a close friend who was preaching the Dharma. You know, he almost broke into tears when he lost that friend. And says now only one to teach the Dharma. Well, it's not quite that bad. There are others. The Honorable Venerable Dr. Thich Nhat Hanh. I would have to say, though, that getting religion out of the way and being spiritual but not religious is a matter of growth and development, and something people should be doing, because the religions tend to disagree with one another, and often disagree with science. So let's be spiritual, but let's be less religious. Yeah. And that's what these videos are for. If you're in that camp, or you are awakening, you're seeing that, or having an inclination toward being spiritual but not religious, well, you're not alone. The great mystics were all, you know, spiritual but not religious. And some of them gave religious teachings, you know, to help prepare people, or as a kind of governance for them or something. But yeah, by and large, we need to move away from what's religious and go toward what is more spiritual. And what I mean by that, being in touch, communing with that sense of higher power and absolute reality. That exists within the perceptions of your mind, at the very least. And maybe something more than that. Take the journey and find out. When I was first given this message, the beginnings of this message, I asked my favorite mystic, Jesus, if this wasn't leaving him out. Compassionate insight came to me, as if my brain was turning it into a kind of unspoken language that no, you're just asking people to go around the corner where you know I am. Yeah, spiritual but not religious. Go for the real deal. Go for the real experience. And a lot of people in NDEs find that real experience. And they become more spiritual and less religious in general. It's a trend. Consider that. So many things, so many subjects. With this, there is the inward practice of inner mind communication is the actual practices involved, which can deviate. There's many forms of these 6 practices, that these practices encompass. You can tailor it to yourself. But, wow. When you teach spiritual things, there are moments in which the bliss and the beauty and the heart is just so strong that your mind just sinks into it. And you have to restart what you're saying. Wow. So, let's follow the path of love and find the reality. That's just a good summation. Yeah. Well, as I would like to say at the end of these presentations, namaste. May the empowering love that makes us a part of everything be felt and experienced. And from that perspective, I want to use the phrase that honors that same perspective and experience in you. That ability to expand your capacity to love and your vision of a better world. Sometimes I want to make a little side note here, the philosophy of inner mind communication practice is simply the practice in daily life when you're talking to people. And the one thing helps the other. So if you're living a life in which you're being more compassionate and trying to be more objective and more creative and more aware and seeking common ground so as to build trust and help others grow, then that feeds your capacity to do it inwardly. And doing it inwardly feeds the capacity to do it outwardly. So the practice helps the philosophy and the performance, the acting through that philosophy in daily life is empowered by your inner life. Your outer life empowers your inner life when you practice these perspectives. When you talk about them, when you're in a group. So, back on point, to honor that marvelous wonder that you are, from the marvelous wonder in me, the thing that joins us all together. The higher power of love. Well, I'd like to, from me, honor that in you with the words Namaste. Yeah. And so, have a great day, y'all.